I appreciate that. Yeah, we're. Hey, good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock on Tuesday, February 4th. We will call this meeting to order. We'll ask the Reverend Griffiths to approach for the invocation, and then directly following that will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Before I pray, I just want to encourage everybody today. It's my job as a chaplain to encourage people. I don't know when I pray if you keep your eyes open or closed, but if they're open, I don't want to weird you out. As we give a sign for the Pledge of Allegiance, as military people salute, the Jewish priest does this. Anybody ever seen this before? Who does that? Yeah, Spock. Spock did that. Okay, y'all are old enough to know what this is, okay? Well, he was Jewish, and he was actually blessing the people every time he did that. You may not have known that. And so I will do that today as I pray. I want to thank you guys for letting chaplains come and do this. This does not happen in every country or every city. So thank you very much. I want to encourage the council. This is not a sermon, okay? Not 3 points in a poem. But as I pray, I just want you to know what I'm going to be praying for. What I'm going to be praying for is for them to have wisdom above their wisdom and knowledge above their knowledge. They are smart, educated, wonderful people, but we know we can have a Flint, Michigan by accident. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Those people did not do that on purpose, but it had consequences. They had no idea. So my prayer as a chaplain is going to be that you guys and gals listen to the Creator of heaven and earth so he can protect everyone in cases where you don't know things that you can't know. All right, so let's pray. Lord, we just thank you for this day. I thank you for the government officials who are here, not just the ones behind me, Lord, but the room is full of officials. And then there are people bringing requests today. Lord, they're bringing things that are on their mind and their heart that they think are and believe are of goodwill. And so, Lord, I just want you to help them. Lord, we pray that the council, as it makes decisions, will always make those fairly and justly. And so we pray that on them. And then, Lord, we just end with one of the prayers out of your word. And it says, may the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord look with favor on you and give you peace. And I pray that for everyone in the room. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. At this time, we will look over the minutes, and if the minutes are in order, then it will be right to make a motion to accept the minutes. Any questions, comments, or proposed amendments to the minutes? See none. As such, I motion that we accept the minutes.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. The clerk will open the roll. Members will vote. 7 yeas, the motion passes unanimously. Onward to a proclamation for National Wear Red Day. I've asked Council Member Tuttle to help us with this because she was the lead on informing the council the importance of this. So I'm going to join her in the front and ask the people to give her the microphone.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to invite my dear friends from the American Heart Association to join me today. I've had the pleasure of working with the Heart Association for the past 17 years since I've been in this great city and have seen the amazing work they've done and the impact. So this is really an honor for me to be able to share this proclamation with them today. Whereas heart disease and stroke kill 1 in 3 women in the United States, yet 80% of cardiac events may be prevented through education and lifestyle. Cardiac diseases and stroke kill one woman every 80 seconds in the United States, and cardiovascular diseases kill more women than the total combined deaths from cancer, accidents, and diabetes. Whereas 45% of women aged 20 and older are living with some sort of cardiac disease, whereas 57% of Black women have cardiovascular disease, while over 40% of Hispanic adult women aged 20 and older have cardiovascular disease. For white women, cardiovascular disease will claim the lives of more women than all forms of cancer, including breast cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's, motor vehicle accidents, and unintentional injuries combined. Whereas it's not just a problem for older women. Heart disease and stroke can affect any woman at any age, at any time, and new research shows that heart attacks are on the rise in younger women. That's why it's important for all women to take charge of their health and encourage others to do the same. Go Red for Women is asking all Americans to go red by wearing red and speaking red. Therefore, let it be resolved that the mayor of the city of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim February 7th, 2020 as National Wear Red Day in the city of Wichita, and we encourage all residents to show their support for women and the fight against heart disease by commemorating the day with wearing the color red. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. So thank you, Mayor Whipple, for having us here today and the rest of the city council members. I also want to thank the other folks in the audience that I see wearing red today. So shout out to you. Thank you very much. This Friday, February 7th, is National Wear Red Day. We encourage the entire community to wear red and raise awareness. Why should you go red? Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women, taking more lives than all forms of cancer combined. While significant progress has been made, disparities in care continue to persist for the 1 in 3 women living with cardiovascular disease. It's time to change this fact. It's time to wear red and give in support of women's health. We hope that you all wear red and make a choice to live a healthier life. And here are 7 ways that you can achieve this. You can move more, eat better, lose weight, control your cholesterol, manage your blood pressure, reduce blood sugar, quit smoking, or even better, never start smoking. We're excited to see you this Friday, and we thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is a Community Service Recognition Award. The chair will ask Councilmember Brennan Johnson to join us at the podium. And would ask,
Bryce, if you come up.
so Mr. Graham, as Mayor of Wichita, one of the things that I think that we could be doing more of is recognizing local heroes, people who go above and beyond in our community to make it a better place. As we know, we're all in this together, and for Wichita to reach its potential, we do better when we help each other. As was reported through the news, Shock Shop Barbershop was giving out free haircuts to kids in the community who were showing up with outstanding report cards. So this right here is an award. It's an Outstanding Citizenship Award in recognition of exemplary service to our Wichita youth and community through encouraging the values of academic success. So with that, I wanted to call Mr. Graham up here, present him and his business with this award, and just say that we really appreciate the work you're doing for our community, sir. Thank you. Clerk will read.
Geneva Smith, safe storage lockers for firearms at City Hall.
Welcome and good morning, Ms. Smith.
Good morning. This week is National Gun Violence Survival Awareness Week. First through the...
Ma'am, forgive me, could you pull the microphone in front of you so that we can...
Is that better?
That's much better, thank you.
This week is National Gun Violence Survival Week, the 1st through the 8th. I chose to come and speak for the simple fact of what week it was. I lost my son last year due to gun violence. I'm pretty sure everyone knows the backstory behind it. My son went and spent the night over at a friend's house and never came home. Since then, I have been pushing for a safe storage law, and there is a bill in committee in Topeka. And so now I am pushing for a city ordinance, just for the simple fact that I know that the bill may take a while, and I feel like this is something that is actually needed. Wichita and Kansas has the most lenient gun laws there is. I am not trying to take away anyone's right to bear arms, but I feel like something so fatal that can end someone's life, there should be a little bit more stricter laws. The city ordinance that I'm requesting to be implemented is just a safe storage bill. It's just stating that if an accident like this occurs again, that someone is held accountable. My son was 9 years old. He knew nothing about guns. To lose a child in such a traumatic way and you have no closure, that does something to a mother. I'm not only doing this for my child, I'm doing this for other children, other mothers that may have go through the same situation. A city ordinance just for a safe storage, whereas there is someone held accountable, will give a mother that does lose her child in this kind of way some type of peace of mind. It actually, you'll have some type of closure. My son's been gone a year, and I can tell you now that I still haven't properly grieved. There's no closure in this situation. I'm still fighting for justice for my child. So, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for sharing with us. Clerk will read.
Talia Williams, wrongful death of Karen Jackson.
Ms. Williams, are you here? Oh, yes. Perfect. Good morning and welcome.
Well, let me give a brief thing. Morning, City Council members. This is my granddaughter, Talia Williams, who lost her grandmother due to a Wichita Police Department shooting in 2012. She's never had the opportunity to express herself concerning this. I think she was around maybe 12 when this happened, or maybe 11. But as the previous speaker said, we don't really have any closure. We've tried to be very diplomatic since this occurrence, but just to give a little background, backstory on it. But Talia, just take your time.
Take your time.
This is Talia's grandmother. And, yes, anybody who still has a grandmother living, or, I loved my grandmother very dearly. And it's a great loss and a tragedy to have to grow up, and it's, very hard to grow up without your grandmother, and, it's very unfair. But I'd like to, do you have anything you want to say?
I just wish that something would get done quicker. It's been like almost 8 years. She was my best friend. And I was with her the night that she got killed beforehand. And when I found out, it's like something switched in me. I became such a different person. And to this day, I still think about it. Like, if my grandma wasn't killed, I wouldn't be the way I am today. I don't like to say this, but I know me doing my own self-aware, being able to realize that I'm so mean now. I'm just angry all the time. I'm depressed. I don't go to school because I don't have any motivation. She was my everything. So I just wish that it would be easier for me, but it's not, because I didn't get to say bye to her. She was shot 4 times. For what? No one tased her. No one, why did they have to shoot her 4 times? She was outside. I don't understand. If only I could talk to her, that's all I want. I was a little girl, and ever since I've been, I don't want to say crazy, but that's how I feel. I feel like I can't think straight. She's always on my mind. because she was all I had, and now all I have is her. And once, if something happens to her, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
We thank the city councilmen for their time and towards this matter, and we ask that y'all consider some type of resolution, because one thing that bothers us is that we don't actually have a place at the cemetery, anything that we can go to, and future generations can honor their grandmother. The scripture says, honor your mother and father. That's what it says. I remind the Leviticus 25:10, and also remind the city councilman of Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, it says, don't pervert the justice of the poor. And we feel like we haven't received, a just due concerning this. And something can be done. And unfortunately, because you're just now coming into this position, Mayor, we apologize that, this is carried on each time, but hopefully it can be some closure for our family and we can move on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your coming today.
Thank you so much.
Clerk will read.
Shirley Starr, Century 2.
Ms. Starr, welcome and good morning.
Well, to start out with, I'm not a speaker, and it's real hard for me to speak like this, but
Take your time.
when I come up here one time, Longwell, and then when I come up one time, there were some people wanting to put some apartments here in Wichita, and I guess it was okay, but I knew then Century 2 was in trouble. I knew it as well as I knew my own name. And I know that people here in Wichita, they want to keep Century 2. And it just seems like, maybe it's just my imagination, but it just seemed like you guys seem like you keep making excuses of wanting to try to tear it down. And I just don't understand it, because that's something we really care a lot about. And my dad was a builder, and so he always told us kids the old buildings are a lot better than the new ones. And he said not to buy any new homes because of that. And I know Century 2 is built really good. And I'm just trying to help get people to sign a petition to keep it. But I understand you're saying that we have to have 12,000 signatures. Is that true?
I would default to staff or technicalities.
It's a little more than 12,000, it's my understanding from the county.
My understanding is a percentage of the last turnout.
Why do we have to have 12,000 when you don't have 12,000 to do other things you want to do? Why do we have to have that kind of signatures? You don't have 12,000 when you guys want to do something. And I just can't understand when that we have to have those 12,000, because you don't have 12,000 when you want to do something. So why should we? That's a pretty good thing to say. But all I'm going to say is that let me see. I want to. Oh yeah, something was mentioned about the maintenance of the building, and didn't he offer to take care of the maintenance if there was any work that need to be done to that Century 2? I thought I seen in the paper he was offering to fix it.
I'm unaware of any formal offer by anyone in the community at this time.
I thought I read that.
Is there any formal offer?
That in the paper where Warren had offered to, if there was any maintenance on it, that he would take care of it.
Well, this is part of a larger ongoing public conversation as well, so we'd be happy to meet with you after the meeting, and if there's specific details you're looking for to ensure that you can utilize this time to express your views.
Well, anyway, I hope that There's some way to keep this from having to have 12,000 people, because if that's the case, you guys need to have 12,000 when you want something done.
We appreciate you coming and expressing your opinions. Clerk will read.
Barb Myers, update from the Friends of Wichita Pioneers on Highland Cemetery.
Good morning.
Morning and welcome.
My name is Barb Myers. I'm the president of the Friends of the Wichita Pioneers, and I'm proud to say that I am also a Wichita historian and preservationist. I have met with many of you over the last few years. Some of you I know, some of you I haven't met yet, so thank you for letting me come. I just want to tell you a little bit about what we do. We take care of the oldest cemetery in Wichita. Highland Cemetery is at 9th and Hillside. It's the one on the west, not on the east. We always say it's not the pretty one, it's the old one. The cemetery was first used in 1868. That's 2 years before the founding of the city, of course. It was platted in 1872 and was owned by several entities, including Henry Smith, who owned the land, and Lot Owners Association. The city was required to take it over in 1982, and so that has been under your jurisdiction ever since. We came into effect, I started studying it in October of 2014. That was the time that I became a grad student at WSU studying local and community history. We incorporated September of 2016. We became a nonprofit soon thereafter, and we formed a memorandum of understanding with the city as of December of 2016. So we want to thank you for allowing us to be able to take care of the oldest cemetery in Wichita. I don't know if you know who's buried there, but some of the city founders are buried there. So we have the honor of taking care of them and their families, and we take that very seriously. We have to get family approval to be able to work on these gravestones. We take the time to find the family, meet with the family, get to know the person, and the very first thing we do when we do work out there is we honor that family. Then we fix the stone, we clean the stone, and we take care of it afterwards too. As I said, we take it very seriously. We take our city's history very seriously. We just felt like this was a very good time with everything going on. To bring up the fact that we appreciate the city's attention to its history and to its preservation, and to that, we would like to be a part of it in a larger way if possible in the future. We just take care of the one cemetery, but I know that there's at least 4 other entities that we could be a part of. So I just wanted to make you aware that we take care of the preservation of the city and the people of the city. So we just want to thank you again for that. And that's it.
Thank you, and thank you for the service you do to our community.
Thank you.
Clerk will read.
Consent agenda items 1 through 12.
Discussion on consent agenda items 1 through 12 from the bench. See none. Is there public comment? See none. Back to the bench. If there's still no discussion, the chair makes a motion to accept consent agenda items 1 through 12.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. The clerk will open the rolls. Members will cast their votes.
Mayor Whipple, would you cast your vote, please? Thank you.
With a 7-0 yeas to nays, the motion does pass unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Report of Board of Bids and Contracts dated February 3rd, 2020.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Melinda Walker, Purchasing Manager. Today we have for engineering Wildcat Construction for $314,030.50 for the water line replacement at Kellogg and Osage. We're recommending award February 25th for the new engineer's estimate and budget authorization. We have stormwater sewer number 735, improvements to serve Popular Avenue, Meese Construction, at $191,102. For purchasing, we have liquid blended phosphate. We're deferring until next week, February 10th. And our open request for proposals that are available on our new vendor self-service website is parking and security services and a concept design, wastewater reclamation, and facilities. And if you want to become a registered vendor for the City of Wichita, our new website is selfservice.wichita.gov. And a recommendation to approve the bid award.
Are there questions on the item? See none. Questions from the public? See none. Conversation will come back to the bench. At this time, if there's no further discussion, then I move to accept the recommended action of staff, which is to receive and file a report, approve the contracts, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. The clerk will open a roll, and members may cast their votes. It's coming up, right? With 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass unanimously. Onward, Madam Clerk.
Economic Development Grant to Passageways.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Scott Rigg with the City Manager's Office. The item before you is unfinished business for a passageway request for grant. We are requesting 1 more week until February 11th to continue it 1 more week before we bring a recommendation towards you at that time. So at this time, we asked for the extension.
Are there any questions or concerns from the bench? See none, I make a motion that we defer for 1 week and come back to this item next meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open a roll. Members may cast their votes. With a 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing and approval of a facade improvement project at 1700 East Douglas.
Morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, members of City Council. Mark Elder with the Office of Economic Development. The item before you today is a public hearing for consideration for facade improvements at 1700 East Douglas. That's also commonly referred to as the M&M Insurance Building. This project is the rehabilitation of that building, and they have a total estimated cost of $1.7 million. They're going through and rehabbing this. They're trying to make the building not only renovate it, upgrade it, make it more attractive, as well as for retention and attraction of employees for that building. This has kind of your standard facade improvement projects with the brick and masonry work, tuck pointing, window door replacement. They will be including roll-up doors on the west side on the second floor, kind of as amenity for their staff and sometimes meeting rooms. And then they'll do the rest of the work that will make sure they restore the building to meet any code requirements as well. Here's just an aerial of the building at 1700 East Douglas. You can see on the northeast corner of Douglas and Hydraulic. And then just the current condition of the building on the south-facing side there. I think it actually still has the cars in there on this photo here. And then just kind of the rendered sketch of what they'll be doing on there. Of course, it's kind of hard to see because most of it's just going to be updates and all that. Same thing on the west side of the building here. Those 2 windows on the far right of the screen are the ones that they were discussing as far as making the changes to the roll-up. And then there's just the window here. As far as the questions that were asked at the last meeting, as far as the construction of those doors, they will be like a steel and glass roll-up door on that, and they will not be seeking historic preservation. My understanding some of it's just because with some of the work they're doing won't be qualified, but they're still going to be working to restore it, and keep the look that they have on that building. The project costs are listed here. Their initial bid is $170,000, but when we do a maximum assessment on these projects, we always add a 10% contingency, which is where we get that $187,000. When you add in the cost for financing as well as some administrative cost and deduct the the $30,000 grant that this building qualifies for being on a corner, the maximum assessment that would go against the building is $185,000. And with that, the way that this would work is that the developer will be funding those improvements, and then when that project is completed, they will seek reimbursement from the city. At that time, we would then assess that building for the maximum amount. Many times that it comes in lower because we set it as a maximum where we don't have to come back and adjust. So we'll come back when that project's done as well to set the actual cost. That's financed the way we do normal special assessments for 15 years, and so the interest rate would also be set at the time that we have a bond sale. There are representatives from the building business there if you'd like to speak to them. Otherwise, I will stand for any questions.
Questions or discussion from the bench? See none. Questions or discussion from the public? See none. This looks like it's going to be a quick one. Bringing it back to the bench. Questions or discussion? If there is no further questions, the chair will defer to the Honorable Council Member from District 1, Johnson, as this falls within his district.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd just like to say thank you for improving that business. This is yet another business that is doing some great work in the Douglas Design District and cleaning up the facade, and I'm excited to see what happens. So with that, I would move that we close the public hearing, approve the facade easement, and place the maximum assessment ordinance for the 1700 East Douglas facade improvements on first reading.
There's been a motion. I will second. Clerk, open the rolls. Members will cast the votes.
Mayor, I didn't get the second. Could you tell me?
Oh, sorry. I've seconded.
Okay.
With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Management Services Agreement with Wave Old Town LLC at Navsker Park.
Welcome and good morning.
Thank you. Mayor and City Council members, my name is Gentry Teason, and on behalf of the Park and Recreation Department, I'll be presenting this Management Services Agreement with Wave Old Town LLC at Navsker Park in District 1. The land for Navsker Park was acquired in 1980 by the Park Board and has been transformed for different purposes at multiple points in its history, most recently being a Victorian-style park. However, with the intention to support downtown activities near Old Town and the arena, a stronger activation of the park into a community gathering space was required. In 2017, the city approved $1.5 million in TIF funds and $1 million in general obligation funds to provide improvements in the park. In addition to this, Evergy is sponsoring $1.4 million in enhancements to the park, including the namesake Evergy Pavilion. An RFP seeking a company to provide event management at the park was published on September 9th, 2019 by the Park and Recreation Department. As is typical with the bidding process, a pre-proposal meeting was held on September 17th that same year, in which interested vendors could ask questions on the RFP. 5 interested parties were present at this meeting. This meeting was open to the public. After that, questions from the pre-proposal meeting were addressed in an addendum published on September 23rd. Both the RFP and the addendum were publicly published. The due date for proposals was October 4th, and respondents are scheduled to present on their proposal to a staff panel. On October 17th, 2019, WAVE was selected by a panel of staff members from Finance, Law, and Park and Recreation Department, as well as a member of the Park Board, Tori Dethridge. WAVE, as the selected vendor, will be responsible for these aspects of event management as were requested in the RFP and have been negotiated in the agreement in detail, including administration, financial management, talent acquisition, event production, staff and venue operation, marketing, arranging reasonable and safety security during events, and concession operation, including alcohol service. This information was provided in WAVE's proposal to us. In 2018, their first year of operation, WAVE hosted nearly 400 events at its venue. WAVE helped to develop the First Friday Music Crawl, which has benefited and connected the community and businesses to local and touring music. It also assists with the booking for the Cotillion and Riverfest. At Riverfest, WAVE implemented new safety and security measures, including crowd care initiatives, all of which helped to restore levels of attendance for musical acts in a way that maintained public safety. Wave in this agreement is our civic-minded partner providing expertise to activate the park as a downtown hub. Representatives Adam Harkey and Jesse Harkey are present today and will be available to help answer questions at the end of the presentation. The city is responsible for the primary operation and maintenance of the NAFSCR Park property. For each event, Wave is required to provide an event master plan that includes safety and security plans, crisis plans, and general maintenance and a cleaning plan. Wave is responsible for all show and concession-related expenses. The established time of control for 5 hours prior to and 5 hours after the event is written into the agreement, during which Wave is responsible for the property and damages caused by the negligence of Wave and its staff. Wave is responsible for returning the venue to the city control in the state that it was provided to them. And by doing this, an asset inventory list, which is included at the end of the agreement, will be used by staff to evaluate the park before and after the event. Wave and the city have shared control of the event calendar with established operating procedures. Event parameters for what will be allowed in the park will be established by both parties. If a show falls outside of these parameters, Wave can request approval from the city, which should not be unreasonably withheld. The goal of the event parameters is to protect the public interest. Wave and the city will work together to schedule events hosted by either party, including requests from the public for park rentals. The agreement was created to ensure a mutually beneficial partnership with efforts to provide clear, quality communication by both Wave and the city. As with all city parks, NAFSCR will include free public programming. For example, yoga in the park on Saturday morning, and if you watched the Super Bowl on Sunday and saw clips of the Power and Light District in Kansas City, packed with people, that's what we hope for and intend to have with tailgating watch parties on the video screen in our own NAFSCR park. Our partnership with Wave will supplement the free programming that the Park and Recreation Department plans to do. Wave is a top provider in their industry with the expertise to host music and events or entertainment events that enhance a community gathering space. Once again, as with all city parks, NAFSCR is available to rent by the public through the city. Renters may request the services or equipment provided by Wave, but Wave has the first right of refusal to provide those. So if other providers are suggested or interested, price points will be considered, such as a nonprofit hosting a gala in the park in which alcohol is donated. It is the intention of this agreement that most events will be open to the public. It can be closed for private events as booked by any person following the established rental procedures. As can be seen in the pro forma in the contract, the majority of ticketing for Wave events at NAFSCR are free general admission tickets. A smaller amount of VIP tickets will be sold for a temporarily fenced-off exclusive experience area. These are the instances in which a park may be temporarily fenced off by Wave or others for events with limited public access. VIP areas in which a ticket was paid for, and all areas that serve alcohol must be fenced for service and consumption. The fencing will most often occur around the grass and turf areas in the middle of the park and portions within it as outlined in slide 5. Note that the park will not be fully fenced off from the public, and people can still utilize the sidewalks around it and have access to businesses on the east side. The term of the contract will retroactively be January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. This is a pilot program for the first year, and terms can be reevaluated before renewing. After that, it may be agreed to extend the agreement for 2 terms of 5 years each. In the following slide, I will show a chart of the net profit and net loss sharing annually. These terms were agreed upon to provide equitable risk and reward for the city as well as Wave. Wave will retain 100% of the profit up to $49,999. Beyond that, the city will be provided a rebate of 5% of the profits up to $149,999, and after that, 10% of the rebate above 150% or $150,000. Wave and the city will share responsibility of the net losses up to $50,000, and the city's portion of which will be paid out of the Park and Recreation Department's budget. The greatest possible loss incurred by the city would be $25,000. These profits and losses will be determined in an annual accounting report provided by Wave to the city. Any share of the profits will be credited as park revenues in the general fund and will be used to fund NAFSCR park operating costs and/or improvements. Additional considerations, are that all signs, sponsorships, marketing, and promotions procured by Wave will require the written approval by the Park and Recreation Director. Wave will acquire general liability insurance in the amount required of community event hosts and maintain a liquor license at its own cost. An initial agreement was presented to and approved by the Park Board on December 9th, 2019. The agreement has been approved as to form by the Law Department. And an additional point on CID, all transactions for and in the park by WAVE are subject to the additional 2% sales tax. This has been recognized and agreed to by WAVE, and the language has been added into the agreement. It is recommended that you as City Council approve the contract and authorize the necessary signatures. I'm happy to answer your questions along with other city staff and WAVE representatives. Thank you.
So I think we might have some questions, or at least I do from some of the activity I've seen online. I want to just confirm, this is a one-year contract. This is the city's first time trying to come out and bring touring acts to a park like this. And this contract's only 1 year and subject to renewal and adjustments after the pilot is over. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. And the park will never be fully fenced off. Is that correct?
That is also correct.
People still have access.
Unless it is, I mean, all parks can be fully fenced off for private events, but people will always be able to access around the park entirely.
Okay, and just one last question for staff. The 2% sales tax, that's going to go back into the maintenance of the park?
Yes.
And the goal is to break even. We usually don't make money off our parks. Breaking even's where we're targeting, is that correct?
Yes, we hope to maintain the park and plan to maintain the park fully, and that sales tax will contribute back into the district and help maintain that park.
Excellent, thank you. Let me check my list. Councilmember Bubog.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just trying to better understand this. So the WAVE will have exclusive rights to this? No other events will be able to be booked without the permission or the consent or working with the WAVE, is that correct?
So events, community events that are run through the community event application that goes through City Arts and Cultural Services, those will be run through and can utilize WAVE services. WAVE has the first right of refusal to say, no, we will not or are not able to provide speakers or microphones for your event. And then they have the option to say, no, we won't provide alcohol for the event in the case that there are better, more feasible prices for people to utilize.
My question is more on the lines, if someone else wanted to bring a music act or wanted to bring some other type of performance, they would have to work through the WAVE to do that. The WAVE would have exclusive control over that.
I'll defer to the city manager or Troy on this.
Under the agreement, Mayor, council members, under the agreement, WAVE does not have control of other events. It's simply that if they want to use the equipment that WAVE owns, they have the ability to get that from WAVE, to rent that. And also then WAVE has the right to serve alcohol, first right of refusal on serving alcohol. But any event that wants to use the park, it will work with city staff, not with WAVE. And WAVE cannot veto that use.
But someone else,
yes.
They're looking at around 20 events a year. So
right.
If someone else wanted to bring another act in there, they could schedule that, but they have to use the alcohol vendor.
That's correct. They would schedule the event with us.
Okay. And then I was under the understanding there was no risk to the city. Can we go back to that risk slide again so I can better understand that?
So there is risk for the city in net loss sharing. But as I mentioned, the maximum loss would be $25,000.
And that's a 50-50 on from 25 to 50. Well, we still would share in the
And
loss.
then in excess of $50,000 in net loss, that is WAVE responsibility.
Okay. And what about liability?
The liability falls to WAVE.
The city cannot, we're completely protected? Okay. No other questions this time.
Thank you.
So I just want to clarify, there's only, at this contract right now, and this is the city taking that first step to bring in acts that are touring, right now it's capped at 20. And so if a local production wanted to have a play or music event, they can still go through Parks and Rec, and just as long as their event doesn't fall on one of those 20 days throughout the year, they would still have access to this.
I'd like to clarify there is no cap on events. It's an expected 20. That's what WAVE has proposed or considered, an expected 20. But if other entities in the city wish to book events, they can go through the city, and through that shared event calendar with Wave, we should be able to book that.
But Wave can't tell Music Theater Wichita, you can't use the stage unless they have an event on that night that's already been planned.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Okay. Vice Mayor Claycomb.
I want to just clarify this first right of refusal. So if someone else wants to use the park and they get a better prices or better service from another vendor, do they have to use the Wave?
It's my understanding that Wave has the right of refusal, but they also have the right to provide that service. So it will be considered.
So who makes that determination? That's what I'm trying to decide.
Troy Halpin does behind me.
Director of Parks makes that, okay. Okay, thank you.
Further questions of staff? See none, we thank you. Moving into questions from the public. So questions of the public, feel free to just start walking down because I don't have a list. And once you get to the podium, please state your name and your business.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jason Gregory. I work with downtown Wichita, 507 East Douglas, for the record. Here to speak in support of the agreement before you today. As many of you know, NAFSCR Park is important in downtown's continued development. Project Downtown identified this park and this intersection as a key node in that linkage connection between the arena and the Old Town Entertainment District. Park's role, I think in the last couple decades, and particularly in urban centers, has really changed dramatically on how they serve and the purpose they serve communities. And what we've seen is they play a very prominent role in the activation, adding vitality, and I think it's no different. The investment that we've made in NAFSCR Park will have on our community. They serve as central gathering places and more than just a place that takes, increases the activity that takes place there. One thing I want to point out is that you can invest in public spaces, but it needs to be more than that. You can't just invest in a space and expect people to come. They have to be actively programmed with events and activity, and events and programming cost money. And an old model might be to raise sponsorship for each and every event that happens, but that's not a consistent way to ensure that this activation is going on. And so there are numerous and similar examples in cities across the country where third-party groups such as the Wave, whether that's a nonprofit or a for-profit entity, contract with the city to provide programming. I can think of examples in Louisville, Kentucky, along the riverfront, the River City Company. Many of you are familiar with Bryant Park. That's a third-party group that contracts with the city to provide the services there. And most recent trip to Boise, Idaho, many of you go on the city-to-city trips. They have a third-party group that activates their downtown, and it's primarily through the sale of alcohol that they have a revenue stream that allows them to provide the performance and entertainment for their community. And so this model will allow for that consistency and the continuity, which is extremely important because that's what brings the life to the downtown area. And so we're really excited. We're so excited to see this park transformed and activated. And I want to thank the city for their investment, their significant investment in this place. And I want to thank the private sector partners of TGC and Evergy for their vision and investment in making this project a reality. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? See none, thank you. Still have public comments, so whoever stands up first, there we go. Good morning and welcome.
Hey guys, I'm Adam Harkey, this is Jesse Harkey. We are Wave. We just want to thank you guys for the opportunity and Troy and the Parks for the opportunity. Historically, city centers are super vital for a city to flourish and for its community to feel like they have a gathering place, and for the community members to get together. And we see as NAFSCR as possibly being that now with the revitalization. you know, if you know anything about WAVE or work that we've done in the past, beyond WAVE, you know, we're all about bringing the community together, getting people together, and doing things that create common bonds. So it's not our intent to keep Music Theater of Wichita from doing a play or keep anybody out of the park. That's not the intent. When booking acts, we're looking constantly at routings and trying to pair with other cities and schedules. And so the reason for the holds on the calendar and the communication between us and the parks isn't due to us wanting to be restrictive. It's due to the nature of the business of not always knowing when a specific date is going to line up and having to have flexibility within those set dates. So, you know, we're gonna be welcome to working with anybody. Obviously, if there's nonprofits, if there's people doing things we don't want to be preventative, that doesn't make sense for our city to stop progress just because we want to, you know, take advantage of a situation. So, you know, if anybody has worries about that, I can only give my word to say that we're gonna, you know, work our best to work with everybody. So, do you guys have any questions? I don't.
Questions, Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you for being here. Just one quick thing. You cleared it up on social media, but for anybody who's not there, are you saying that the events you have are welcome? If there's someone who's homeless, they're not going to get pushed out? Everybody's still welcome in the park?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's welcome. Our only, I mean, we'll have general kind of modes of conduct that we expect from anybody. You know, if somebody's violent or you know, screaming at people, I mean, no matter what class you are, what race, what your social economic background is, we expect that people treat each other with respect and kindness. And that's our main kind of operating procedure. And so if there's somebody there watching music and they're existing in a public space, we have no issue with that. And in fact, we encourage it because it might help break down barriers that so many people have with that community. There's a lot of misconceptions with that community, but there's also a lot of issues within that community. I mean, it's humanity. It's complex. It's not a basic thing of, oh, here's a homeless person. Oh, here's a certain type of person. I mean, typecasting people doesn't work. So we're all for the homeless as a part of our community and giving them entertainment too. And if they get, you know, want to be there and participate, that's all, you know, it's just another member of the community, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as my husband's alluded to, our main goal with everything we do, we feel that, you know, we do live in a fractured society. And we feel that by providing musical entertainment, that is a way to create a cohesive moment that, you know, like my husband was saying, people who generally would not interact with each other. Maybe we can come together and realize we are really all humans. And, you know, maybe we can all just create a better world with it. And so we've been so lucky to be able to do that at WAVE. And then when we saw this opportunity at NAVSCR, we thought this was such a beautiful way for us to continue this, because at WAVE we are bound by, you know, we have a lot of bills to pay there, and so we have to have ticketed events where everything, you know, paid ticketed events there. But at NAVSCR, this is an opportunity where we don't have to, you know, exchange money to provide entertainment. It's such a great opportunity. We can, you know, spread kindness and love and better our community and make that accessible to everyone, you know, as long as they are treating others with kindness and respect.
And just one last thing is, you know, we're doing this without ticket revenue. I mean, we may do some VIP sections here or there. That's not a focus of ours. So the alcohol revenue is almost essential on the events that we do produce. We're probably going to take losses on events that we work with people and provide alcohol for. Then that's where we might make up those losses. So without a ticket revenue, doing shows it's not a great model. It doesn't really create a lot of revenue. So.
It's risky, but we're okay with that.
Yeah.
So I think that. Well, one last thing, not a question, but I just appreciate, you know, hip hop and rap gets a bad rap sometimes here in Wichita, and I appreciate, you know, bringing Wu-Tang Clan here. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Hey, man, for sure. We're into it. We fought that at Riverfest a lot, you know, and I remember having multiple conversations about the Roots and how that might be a scary crowd. And I'm like,
And
Never mind.
I did have one other
It's,
question. I know there was we saw a number of questions raised on social media. We have some written responses to those that we might not have addressed. Can I distribute? Is that?
You may approach.
I don't know.
The chair will allow it. It's only I think my 4th week, so I'm not sure the process for that. But I do just want to throw something out there, and I understand we're out of time, but you are a conferee at this point, and we appreciate you taking the questions. You have the first right of refusal. So if a nonprofit or a community organization says, hey, we want to use this at a time when you're not using it, one of the people are going to in-kind their equipment and their time, and that's how we can pull this event off. You technically could say you have to use our equipment, this is the price tag. In such a situation, how would you handle that?
I mean, the majority of nonprofits, we work with a lot of them already at Wave. We're not interested in trying to profit off of that situation because we understand that situation. I've worked for nonprofits for most of my life. I know how they work. I get it. That said, we don't want to be in a situation where somebody is under the guise of a nonprofit and there's actually somebody profiteering off of it, because that happens. Let's be honest, it happens all the time. So no, we would tell them, hey, serve your stuff, or if we can help in some way, if you don't have the staff to do it, and we split the revenue somehow, so you don't have the burden of having to go through the licensing and having to go with buying the stock and whatever. Yeah, I mean, we're going to work with people for sure.
Okay, so that's a takeaway. It sounds like you'd be willing to work with a group like that, and the hopes of keeping an event going instead of stopping the event.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah, and we're really busy, so we don't want to be involved in every event. If somebody has a plan and they're running with it, it's like, hey, go for it, please, by all means. But then again, if, say, the NCAA tournament's in town and we're planning all this stuff and somebody wants to come in and do something with that, then it's like, hey, well, we're a part of this, we're trying to do something here. So, I mean, that's really kind of our viewpoint of it all.
Of course. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you for being here.
For sure, thank you.
Welcome and good morning.
Hello. Hello. You look good up there.
Thank you.
You're doing great.
So far, so good.
Name's Cody Lathrop, and my partner Crystal McDonald. We own Exclusive Events. We are the private production company here in town that does public events that are free. We are crazy. We don't have ticket prices to our events. Blocktoberfest was our 5th year. We did Courtside on Commerce when NCAA did come in the last time. No expense to the community. So we are the crazy ones that do these free events. So all aspects can come in and have a VIP experience, the homeless or not. We don't discriminate. Our revenue, alcohol. We do that revenue on alcohol. We do revenue on vendors. We do revenue on food. We utilize public property with the community event application, which has been approved by the board. Process for all. If we want to use a public piece of land, we go through Connie Clark, apply for it just like anybody else, pay our dues, and move on. The privatizing of a public piece of land, we feel kind of draws the line. I don't know where it goes, if we can go to another public park and do this, if this is a one-time, but this is a precedent that we think could probably continue as is. Community event applications have worked well. I love Adam, great for the community. We've known him since our very first gig was for Adam when he had an art gallery on Douglas. We did it, no charge of Adam. I mean, we have no issue with Adam at all. So we do our relationship there is great with him. It's just the idea of coming into a piece of property that ourselves or any individual Ford that comes along would not be able to, or have to ask another private individual company if they could get permission. Why would they refuse anything? We're first right of refusal on another company to succeed and make revenue or pay their taxes. We've paid a lot in taxes. For them to stop us from saying that because they may want to bring in an act or they may have an act in line, we kind of are discouraged, a little concerned on that.
Yeah, we're not opposed to Wave doing this. We're opposed to saying we want to move our Blocktoberfest, we want to move an event, we want to have a concert, we want to do something, but now we can't bring one of our 4 booze trucks that we've created down there So, the way we make money is off of liquor. That's what we do. So for us to be able to have an event, we have to have our booze trucks there. We have to have our liquor there. And now we can't. So you guys are stopping a small business from being able to create another event downtown. Because he just said, again, I like Adam. Sorry, Adam. But that's the only way he's going to make money, is to be able to run all the liquor through there. So you're stopping us from doing that. So I don't have an issue with Wave taking over the space. I have an issue with not allowing other people to be able to do an event there with liquor. That's our issue. And I think it needs to be amended or something. We should be able to go through the city to ask permission, not to Wave to ask permission if we can use a city property.
So I don't see any questions for the conferee, but I do. Oh, Madam Vice Mayor Claycomb.
Sorry, Mayor, I just
Of course.
jumped in there. I want to clarify this. The way I understood it is WAVE doesn't have that authority. Director of Parks has that authority.
They have the first right.
No, I'm asking the manager, sorry.
Right. In terms of the actual programming of the Park and Recreation Director has control over that. The issue is the service of alcohol.
And so, again, that's back to my question. If an event wanted to use NAFSCR Park and they thought they had a better price, better service, whatever, who makes that on alcohol, who makes that determination?
Director of Parks and Recreation, Troy Hauptman. So the things that we're looking at, let me start from the beginning. So the scheduling is going to be a joint scheduling with the WAVE, and we want to find as many opportunities to activate the park as possible. So there's going to be some specialty situations where the WAVE can't address those, or the Parks and Recreation can't address those, and so we'll find those folks and schedule them in to the park, whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's a for-profit. We want to see that. But as the folks from the WAVEs, Adam was talking about, for them to pay the bands that are coming in, the local artists that are going to be part of programming it, they need to make some money, and that's in regards to the alcohol sales. So just like Jason Greger was talking about up in Boise, they use alcohol sales to pay for all the bands and all the artists that are going to be programming in the park. So in working with the WAVE, they have that expertise. They can help us schedule. They can help serve. And so we want to make sure that they have that first opportunity to serve and make the money to cover their losses. So it's a difficult situation. Somebody might be left out, but we try to do that at other parks. There's other opportunities, there's other venues that we can also look at. So, but to get their expertise, to get their commitment to this park, I think we had to commit to them as well, that there would be the first right of refusal.
Yeah. This would mitigate our losses too.
Most definitely. Yeah, we wouldn't want to be in a situation where we're having to serve alcohol. We wouldn't want to be the ones booking the bands. And the WAVE is taking a huge risk in this. And so that's why we did agree to split some of the losses if that occurs, but I don't think they're going to lose any money. No. And so we wanted to reward them as best as we can. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So Troy, while you're up there, my understanding is we're not in a business of attracting acts. Like I think, besides with the exception of the honorable council member from District 1, I don't want to be on the phone with Wu-Tangs, with their manager, because I don't know what I'm doing. So the WAVE can facilitate that, and we're contracting out with them. With the conferees who are here, if the WAVE has first right of refusal, they have refused taking a part in, let's say, a community event, would the conferee be able to bring their booze truck and sell booze at that event? Or
most definitely. Yeah, I think that's one thing that we want to look at is the WAVE and Adam and his folks will look at the events and can they provide the service for it. If they can't or won't or don't want to, we'll talk to the next person up to provide that service. If there's a special event that they're bringing to the table and we want to talk to Adam and see if there's that opportunity. Adam, as he mentioned, he might not even want to provide that service. So I think it's important that in a contract, as we're trying to do something experimental downtown, trying to activate downtown, we have to make some commitments for those services and those expertise. But I think there's a lot of flexibility in this. If Adam can't provide or doesn't want to provide those services, we can definitely look at the next person. And I think it's going to be a great situation because we're all working together. Going through this process with Adam and his team, going through all the hoops that we had to go through law and put this contract together, there's been a great amount of communication, a great amount of respect, and a huge interest in the community. Adam doesn't want to do this for himself. He's doing this for the community. The Parks and Recreation Department doesn't want to do this just as special events. We're doing this to improve the community and have a greater impact on the quality of life. So with all those factors in place, I think there's room for flexibility, and there's going to be some opportunities for some other folks to use the park if we want to.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Blubach.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So I know it probably sounds like we're asking the same question again, but I'm trying to understand.
Sure.
Like, say, KWLS, Union Stockyards, they want to come in here, they want to bring in exclusive. They'll be able to do that?
So if we'll look at this calendar, and if they wanted to bring in an event, we'll talk about the calendar and how that kind of, whether it was the Wave or anybody else, the city would be looking at what's going to work best for a calendar and for events. If they want to provide alcohol services at that point or music services, we'll talk to the Wave, and if they can't or won't or don't want to, they'll refuse, and it'll be the next person that will provide that service. But it's important that we honor that contract, that they are providing that service because they're the experts. They're providing us with the service that we are not very good at.
But wouldn't you agree if someone else wants to bring in a music act, they're going to have their own partners, and everybody profits off the alcohol. That's part of the equation. Right. So, you know, if you have an agreement with a certain partner, you'd probably want to bring them in, and I just wouldn't want to.
Well, the Wave wouldn't want to do this if they don't ever get a chance to recoup their
But
losses.
if it was not their music act that they were bringing to town, you see what I'm saying?
Then we wouldn't have any entertainment because the Wave wouldn't want to bring in.
But if they're only utilizing 20 events a year, there's a lot of other weekends that someone else might want to bring someone to town.
Yeah, but I think we give them the opportunity to work that event, and if they don't want to or can't, then we'll go to the next person.
As I said, that's part of their partnership. That's how they would make money.
We could tell that this is becoming a good debate because my smartwatch has told me to take a breath. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Since you're up there, Troy, just one quick question. So let's say Wave refuses to provide a service. They don't want to. They're busy. What's the process then of reaching out to folks like Exclusive? Do we have a list of licensed providers and you just reach out to all of them and say, here's an opportunity, and whoever responds will be the person that fills in?
Well, more than likely, they're bringing it together as a package. But if there's other providers or service providers, we'll contact them and ask them if they would be interested in providing that service.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Floor goes back to the conferee. Exclusive. So, thank you for being courteous and allowing staff to come up during your time. If we move forward with this, as it's written, would you be willing to come back, because it's a pilot program for 1 year, we're trying to figure out how to get into something that really the city hasn't done before. Would you guys be willing to come back and give us updates and progress and what we need to change for that next contract? What's working, what's not? In the legislature, we had what was called unintended consequences, which is pretty common up there, and we want to know what the unintended consequences are so that we're providing the best service for not only small businesses, but also for the public.
Sure, I just don't see anybody else having events there, unfortunately, because why would Wave hand over the liquor? That's the only thing that makes money at free events. We have lots of free events. The only thing that you make money on is liquor. So I want to have a concert. I'm going to go to that park. He's not going to hand, as a smart business person, I'm not going to hand over the liquor if I could do it. I just know that's not going to happen. So as an event planner, I'm never going to have an event down there. So you're pigeonholing that park to just Wave now. And I just think that's unfair to all the other small businesses that want to have events down there. I'm never going to have an event down there, unfortunately. And it's a public park that you guys just built and spent millions of dollars on, and I'm never going to utilize it. I just think that's unfair.
Other discussion?
Yes, Mayor, we will come back, though, for for unintended
The
consequences.
goal is to make good public policy, so I hope that you guys do, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Ted.
Quick question.
Oh, my apologies. Councilmember Fry, who's on the list, and
Thank you.
my apologies.
That's good. Crystal, Cody,
Yep.
you may not want to answer this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Did you guys look at the original RFP and consider putting in a proposal? And if you chose not to, why?
So, yeah, I didn't even know, so Tori Dethridge sent it to me 2 days before it was due on a private email and said, "Did you see this?" And I said, "No, I have no idea how to even see those, don't know anything about that." It was 2 days prior. I was leaving, anyways, for vacation. I had not seen it. I looked at it and I said, "This doesn't seem like anything that we would be interested in, honestly." What's proposed now is nothing that was proposed then. So to be fair, it had nothing to do with the contract. It's two separate contracts. So yes, I saw it, but 2 days prior, and I thought, well, that's really nothing that we would be even interested in.
I don't think the RFP had anything that referenced the loss risk share, had anything in the RFP. It just asked for a management company to find vendors, almost like your coalition that the food truck has,
Right.
where they would manage things of the nature if a vendor wanted to come in. They don't have a dog in the fight. They don't want to do it. You guys, and then Wave would. And so when we read this, we thought, well, this would be a management company that would allow all events to come in, not a private individual with a kickback
Right.
to the city, or a risk share. That was kind of the other thing. If the RFP said, yeah, we'll share your risk, probably would have got more than 5 people. This is a sweet deal to only have one person apply. There's something going on here, whether the developers or whoever's behind it, to have one person apply and then give that one vendor a risk share, like that's kind of silly. He's already applied for the RFP. I don't get the whole risk share and all that. So, and a 10% kickback after 500 is kind of a joke to the city. So I do feel like that's a joke. Thank you.
Other questions? We appreciate you being able to stand and take questions beyond the 5 minutes allotted. Thank you for that.
Thank you for your time.
More conversation from the public. Take your time.
My name
Welcome,
is
sir.
Pat Pilkowski. I'm with Shaken and Stirred Bartending. I don't really have a whole bunch of new that you haven't discussed already, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. However, I did feel that it was important for you to know that there was just more than one other company that had questions about this. So I fully support the Wave. I think they're fantastic entrepreneurs. I fully support the city in realizing that, hey, we're not event organizers. We need the experts in here to do it. I do take exception with the fact that if somebody other than the Wave comes in there on one of those other 32 weekends that could be filled with an event, that the Wave or through the city Parks Department have the right of first refusal. If I decide to go in there and organize something, I want to bring my truck in there. I want to bring my alcohol in there to sell. As Crystal and Cody were saying, that's the revenue portion. That's the revenue portion there, which is why the Wave did what they did. I mean, they have to be able to at least break even or make money. I don't have any problem with that, okay? But if I want to come in there and do something, which I won't now, because it would be crazy for the Wave to say no. That's their money. They got to live, okay? But if somebody else comes in there and says, hey, Pat, would you consider bringing your truck in here? I'm going to be like, yeah, but it's not going to happen, okay? I want to just be able to be given the same fair chance of coming in there on a city property in order to sell my wares that you're giving the Wave the opportunity to do. Okay, we don't do this at any other city park. It's pretty much, you can't do it at any other city park. I've tried. So I think this is a bit of an exception. I understand where it's at. I understand the differences in the parks, okay? But I just kind of want to make it fair for the rest of us in the industry. So, thank you.
Questions for the conferee?
I have one.
Vice Mayor Claycomb.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat, for being here today. When you just said, I think, that if you wanted to do this in another city park, you wouldn't be able to. Can you explain that a little bit more, what you mean by that?
As far as I understand the city park rules, there's no alcohol allowed on city park property. We've tried before at different volleyball events. I've been asked to do different rugby events and been told because of the fact that they can't block it off, because of the fact that children could be there, whatever, no alcohol is allowed. And so this would be kind of the first city property, city park that we're allowing this to happen at.
Staff want to address that? I think we've changed some of that.
So we have changed ordinances that has let alcohol, I think that was one of the things we did back in September, and so alcohol is available during special events underneath certain circumstances. We always get these event applications and we look at them. If they're able to follow the ordinances, 9 times out of 10, we've always said yes. We've had a margarita run. They were serving margaritas right after a 5K. So there's been a lot of other examples that we can talk about. There's also other situations throughout the city where we have exclusive rights for serving food or alcohol. The cafe or the library is one example. There's also catering services over at Century 2 and other places where they're exclusive. They have the exclusivity because they've made the commitment, and if they don't, they will gain a loss. So this is kind of very similar to that.
Thanks, Pat.
Any other questions? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. This one isn't for you, but Troy or Bob, can we get that information that when we change the park ordinance to those providers, just so they know, so that if there is someone who wants to do an event, those providers know that they can?
Most definitely. We'll work with our folks from purchasing. I think they have a good list of a lot of the providers that are out there. We'll also work with WDDC because they do a lot of events, and we'll make sure that the ordinance is out there that shows that, and the whole process of going through an event application process. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And again, I'll make the same ask as the former conferee. If we are trying to err on the side of doing great things here in the city. In this one-year pilot, if you are noticing something with your expertise, the members on this bench aren't in the same business. Please let us know. Your experience is going to be valuable as we go forward and look to tweak further policy. So please, regardless of how if it goes forward or not, please let us know your thoughts and the experiences in the months to come.
Oh, I'll let you know. And I do kind of want to thank everybody for listening to us. I mean, it was an important issue for exclusive and us, and I appreciate, and I totally understand both sides of the coin. So thank you.
Of course, thank you for taking the time. Other comments from the public? Comments from the public? See none. We're going to bring discussion back to the bench. Let me check my list here. The chair recognizes Councilmember Bluebog.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I did appreciate everybody's comments, especially Jason Gregory's there telling us about the other cities and what they're doing to utilize those parks. And I'd just like to ask the question to our Parks Director, Troy, and of course, Mr. Harkey out there that's putting all this together. Would it hurt to pause a little bit so the council could take a little better look at what other cities are doing? I think this was mostly an internal thing. I really didn't know about all this until just a few days ago, all the specific details. So I'm still trying to learn more, and I kind of like the idea of looking out there and seeing what else. So I just like to know if there is a sense of urgency, because it sounds like a great idea, but I just want to make sure we're doing our homework.
We're trying to get things going in regards to events starting up in March. There's so many things going on. We have Lake Shelton, we have St. Patrick's Day parades, where we have a lot of events where there would be opportunities for the wave to break even. And so again, I don't think this is really a situation where somebody's going to be raking in all kinds of dollars. It's an opportunity for them to pay for entertainment, whether it's local or maybe some of the smaller touring companies or touring acts to come in. I'd be happy to do more research and bring that information back to council. But it's not a huge deadline, or it's not a huge rush, but we do want to get something going before March so we can actually start doing events as it gets warmer. So if we go past that, then we're losing opportunities for events and revenue.
So how soon after a council decision could he start scheduling events?
We've been working on schedules right now, tentative schedules to looking at when this passes, when can we start activating the park?
Like within a week, could he?
Sure, yeah.
Jason, do you have any comments?
So, yeah, we are actively working on planning, we're working on licensing, we're working on purchasing the equipment that we need to do this. So our first event is planned for March 11th, followed by the 12th and the 13th. So we have 3 events planned in a row. And then we have holds, probably almost 24 holds on the calendar for other events. The 20 event that is being referred to is just what we thought might be a good number to start with, just to test it out. It's likely going to be a lot more than 20 events just because it's going to be a vibrant, active park. It's the first year. We need to keep the buzz going. Addressing concerns of Crystal and others, I mean, I'm more than willing to work with people. I'm not, again, trying to cut people out. And Crystal, call me, like, if you want to do Blocktoberfest, and if you guys are doing something, just give me a shout. Crystal did mention that she was at their first event, which was at an art gallery, and it was a lot of fun, and she gave me free drinks, so, I mean.
So relationships are established.
Yeah.
So if we did potentially look at a 1-week delay, you don't think that would affect these March events?
I mean, the time is of the essence. We've been working on this for 3, 4, 5 months, 5 months. So, I mean, I have email in my inbox now asking me to pull the trigger on 3 different things that are cash things that we have to invest in equipment and certain things. There's a lot of moving parts in this. So, I mean, it's up to you guys, obviously. I can't dictate what you do. But the more time that passes, the harder it is for us to execute.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Mayor? Could I just ask?
The list currently is Councilmember Fry, Councilmember Claycomb, Councilmember Tuttle in that order. Councilmember Tuttle, would you like to?
It's just a follow-up to this specific topic.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can I just, along the time frame, and I understand what you're saying, Councilmember Blula, and I appreciate that, but if I remember the slide back, this is a retroactive contract starting in January, and we're already like a week into February. So if we asked for a delay, we'd be putting in kind of another burden on, because we're already kind of getting a month where they didn't get to do anything. Is that correct, staff? Bob, is that correct? Okay, I just wanted to confirm. Thank you for letting me jump in order.
Correct? To where it wouldn't have to be retroactive, and we would get a true 12 months too?
I haven't been at the table negotiating, but that I think it was represented to be a 1-year contract starting in January, which means it terminates at the end of the year. If we, in all likelihood, you'd probably want to continue it into 2021 if you were trying to give it a full-year pilot.
Are those contracts generally set up on a ending 12/31 or?
Usually, no. Normally, we try to do it though on a defined increment. So in this case, it was a 1-year contract to test to give them some predictability. So you're just shortening the contract period.
Okay, I mean, might be something we'd look at just because there is obligations for profit and loss and everything, so. Okay.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're fine, Adam, thank you. So, obviously, there's a lot of excitement about this park. It's been building for several months, and we're getting close to hopefully it being finished and activation. And it's unusual in that we have this opportunity. We've never had this public gathering place before. Troy brought up a couple of good examples where we have agreements with operations at our art museum, at the library. Our own Riverfront Stadium that's getting ready to open in a few weeks has a partnership deal for services. And so we have some precedents here. I think the concern I keep hearing is that because there's so much interest in this unknown of available dates and when there might be other opportunities, that calendar, that shared calendar, if there's an opportunity to make that public so people can see what dates are available, that helps other groups who are wanting to plan stuff be able to identify those opportunities. And then I think the other thing that I keep hearing is this 1-year pilot. And I think there's a lot of interest in seeing how this works. We don't know how it's going to work. We got to kind of feel it out, kind of figure it out. But on the contract, the term of agreement, it just says the review doesn't say who will make that review or when. I would like to see that 1-year review brought back to the council in a public way so that we could dice it up, review it, et cetera, see where it worked, where it didn't. and if we want to proceed with the option and just not make it an automatic. Because again, if there were groups that weren't aware of the initial RFP, or now that we've had that year of opportunity to figure it out, we might want to change some things. So those are my things to think about.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Claycomb, or excuse me, Vice Mayor Claycomb.
Thank you, Mayor. I like that idea of a year, bringing it back to City Council for that. I just want to say that I understand the reasoning for the exclusivity. You can't, they have to be able to cover their losses, their expenses. It also mitigates our losses. We would stand the potential of suffering losses if we don't have, if the WAVE doesn't have that coming in. So, you know, the WAVE was chosen because of their expertise in event management by a selection team, and I think contracting their services to activate NASCAR relieves city staff from the burden of activation, which is what Director Hauptman talked about, and it relieves the liability, our liability in serving alcohol. And when you look, as Jason Gregory talked about, as you look at these urban parks, recognizing the importance of activating those spaces, even though there is a lot of interest, I think that that exclusivity is important for this one-year pilot to see how that works out. And maybe we'll have so much interest that we'll have more vendors in there. But I, at this point, am willing to support that, the contract today.
The Honorable Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I do want to thank staff. I know a lot of time and effort went into developing this, and I want to thank WAVE for submitting your RFP. I also want to thank the other vendors who came today. It's good to hear your comments. I do think that, and it's a little bit redundant, but even just another example in District 2, we have Stryker, and we have a contract with another entity that helps us because they have content expertise in making sure that we plan events and have tournaments that are successful. So I think the precedent is set in our community, and again, because it's a one-year pilot, if it were beyond that, I'd be a little bit more hesitant. And then I did want to reemphasize too to park staff and also to the WAVE of having some sort of list or some sort of way that if the WAVE does want to refuse, other entities have the opportunity to jump in and that they know that that happens. So I think a little bit of this is going to be, I like the word experiment's been used a couple times, and I think that's probably the appropriate word to use. So I am going to be supportive of this, and we'll look forward to a review after the end of the first year.
Councilmember Clendenin.
My comments are really kind of going back to the thought that I would really love to see other parks in our city activated like this. I think we have the opportunity now with some of the changes that were made in September to do that with the rules that we've put around it. And so I just want to encourage park staff, have several parks in Southeast Wichita I'd love to see utilized that I think are underutilized, Chapin Park being one of them. Watson Park, obviously. We have a lot of paid things, actually, you have to do at Watson Park and that sort of thing. As we move forward, it would be great to see how staff moves forward to activating those parks. I know that you're working on things to do that. And then, of course, with some of the investment that I anticipate happening over in the Clapp Park area, I think that's going to be an amazing venue in the future as well, because I know that the public has expressed a desire in that area to have an amphitheater, and some sort of venue. So I really think that we're going to have the opportunity to move forward with some more opportunities for people. I just want to encourage park staff to continue doing what you're doing to go forward in that area.
Other discussion from the bench, from the members? See, none, I just do want to add that one of the things that makes Wichita great is the fact that we have so many parks, and each park has a different amenities and different feel to it. I understand some of the arguments that have been communicated about having a live entertainment and contracting with a professional organization to bring this live entertainment in on Napster Park. And I think that moving forward, it's important that we do what we can to bring energy and to vitalize what will be the asset that is this park. I'm also am a fan of Watson Park, which has a completely different experience than some of the other parks in our community. And I just encourage, as we take this step forward, that we do get feedback from the public. Right now, this is the first time the city has done something like this. The parameters have changed with our ordinances, and from my memory, with legislation that allows more alcohol and roped off public spaces. So as we move forward as a community with this, we want to err on the side of providing quality of life amenities, but also making sure that we're being fair to local businesses. So moving forward, I think this is a good faith step in that direction, and we would ask that people come to us throughout this process, because what was also expressed in the bench is City Council wants to be involved in ensuring the success of future programs like this. So please come forward as this unrolls and give us your experiences so we can make tweaks, because the intended purpose of this is to increase experience for our citizens. If there is unintended consequences, bring those forward so that we can adjust those. If there is no further discussion from the bench, then I would ask the clerk to close the roll, and members may take a vote. And we need a motion, and my apologies. This actually falls in District 1, so the chair will default to Councilmember Johnson.
Awesome, thank you, Mayor. All the cool stuff's happening in District 1 today.
Apparently.
Before I make my motion, I do want to say I do share the concerns of the businesses that came forward. And that was something that I was kind of stuck on this for a while, but I'll be supportive because it's a pilot. And like my colleague said, I would encourage feedback to the council, but also those who said they may not attempt to do an event there, I would encourage you to try that, because I want to know if, one, you are refused to do that, and two, if it works out for you, what that looks like. So I just want to encourage you to still try. Again, this is a pilot, so when this information comes back, I'm sure there's a lot of lessons that we'll learn from this. But with that, again, sharing those concerns, I will move today that we approve the contract and authorize the necessary signatures.
There's been a motion, second? Motion has been seconded.
Comment.
We have a comment? Oh.
Yeah.
My
Mr.
apologies.
Johnson,
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, would you be amenable to including in your motion a one-year review of council prior to it being renewed?
Yes. Do I have to repeat that? Okay, so I would move that we approve the contract and authorize the necessary signatures and have a one-year review by the council before moving forward.
Thank you.
The motion has been amended. The second on the original motion retracts, and now the second for the original motion makes a second for the new motion. Clerk has opened the rolls. Members will take their vote. With 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass unanimously. Thank you. Clerk will read.
Tennis center improvements.
Getting your exercise today, Troy.
Say again, I'm sorry?
So you're getting your exercise today.
I am.
Welcome again.
So I have a handout that has a little clearer map of the tennis center that I'm going to pass out to you guys. It has numbers, so I don't think this made it to the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Gotta get you some water.
You're all that talk.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Thank you, sir. No, it's water. Want water?
Director of Parks and Recreation, Troy Houtman, and I have from Engineering, Gary Jans, to help with this presentation. The item that I'm bringing to you today is in regards to the Riverside Tennis Center improvements. So a quick little background. The CIP that was adopted last fall for the 2020 funding included $1.5 million for the tennis center to make improvements. The tennis center funding will renovate some of the existing tennis courts as well as add in some new pickleball courts. Currently, the tennis center is operating at capacity when it's all full during its peak hours. Obviously, during the school hours, it's not at capacity, but when it's at its most popular time, it's at capacity. We have interest from other organizations outside the city, outside the state, to host tennis tournaments at this location. The tennis location is highly regarded across the country in regards to a great place to host tournaments. And so just like Stryker, we've been talking about the location where we're at, right in the middle of Colorado and Missouri, and as well as Texas, Oklahoma, and Nebraska. So we would be a great spot for hosting a lot of tournaments and bringing heads and beds and selling food at restaurants. And we know that pickleball is becoming a whole lot more popular. We just installed a 6-court pickleball court over at Seneca across the street from the senior center, and it is packed. So the proposal includes adding 3 additional tennis courts, and this is really key in regards to adding more tournaments. There's just a fine line there in regards to adding these courts would enable us to have much larger tennis tournaments. So we also are going to have 6 new pickleball courts. It also would include resurfacing or reconstruction of tennis courts and some improved lighting. So we'd be able to increase programming, increase rentals, increase tournaments, and that would all increase revenues. And we're also looking at some grants from the USTA in regards to helping us do some other amenities, improvements, and just sprucing up the place a little bit more. So with this, the one on the screen does not have numbers, so I'm going to use the ones that have numbers. The new tennis courts, the 3 new tennis courts would be tennis courts 12 and 13, as well as number 11. Right now, the 10 and 11 courts, the 10 court right now is in such bad shape that we can't even use it. So as they make that repair, they would add on court number 11. And so it's really not taking any more space in the area, and it actually kind of fits in really nicely. And then over to the far left, you see that we currently have pickleball courts 1, 2, and 3. We would add in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then the rest of the courts would either be resurfaced or repaired and replaced. So we've been working with PEC, and we've been working with some other vendors, and we've gotten some very positive feedback in regards to estimates. We have not gone out to bid yet, but we feel very good that our $1.5 million will be able to go this far. And if not, we do have some ideas in regards to grants to cover the rest of the costs. I'll pass this on to my partner.
Mayor and council members, Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. Just to quickly discuss the financial part of this and project management. So the current CIP includes $1.5 million in funding for the tennis center improvements, as you've seen from Troy, which staff is recommending approval of all of that at this time. Also, as he mentioned, there are grant opportunities that we are requesting your approval today to pursue as needed, first and foremost to complete the improvements as shown, and then any other opportunities. Public Works Engineering will provide the project management services for design and construction, working closely with the Park Department throughout. With that, staff recommends the City Council approve the budget in preparation of the tennis center grant applications as needed, adopt the resolution, and authorize necessary signatures, and we'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions? Councilmember Bluebog.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm continually trying to better understand our priorities. When was this put in the CIP?
We've been continually asking for repairs and improvements for the tennis center for the past 4 years. It hasn't really gained much traction. We actually asked for a 3-year, $500,000 improvement, and then it all came into one for this past year.
When was the request put into the CIP?
For this current one?
The request actually started 4 years ago.
Okay, that's the answer I was looking for. Thanks, Troy.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is probably a combination between Gary and Troy, but I see that we're expanding parking, how many spaces, and then any improvements to the clubhouse or bathrooms. If we're going to add this many more courts and this much more activity, do we have the infrastructure to handle that many more people with the facilities that we've got?
So in this plan, we're not expanding any of the parking lot. We have already made some improvements to the tennis center, tennis house, I'm not sure what you call it, the clubhouse, we've already made some improvements to the restrooms, and we have the capacity to meet as far as support anything else that goes larger. We just don't have the tennis courts for that. So this would be making that difference. Okay.
Councilmember Tuttle.
And this is probably a question, I don't know which of you rock stars will answer it, but so right now we have 1.5 million allocated for this project, correct?
Correct.
We think that we can do this work within the confines of that amount, correct?
Correct.
And then the backup plan is to apply for grants.
I think we'd still apply for grants to do any more additional amenity upgrades, spruce it up a little bit more. So that's still the intent, that we want to go after those funds to make even more improvements. But if we are short, we'll use those funds to cover the shortfall.
And are there RFPs already out there, or will it be a grant? I'm just worried in the grant world. I mean, it can take a long time from when you apply to when you get a grant, or when you find out you get it and then you actually get the funds. So I'm just worried about if there's a gap, what's going to happen.
As we're managing the project, we're looking at these priorities first. And if we can go and fill a tennis court later on with that grant, it's not going to have a huge impact on how we go through the process. But the important thing is we want to do it this spring before the peak season.
And there are entities you feel that would be viable for us to apply to?
Yes, we've already started talking to a lot of the construction folks in town. A lot of folks know about this project, and we're ready to get some bids.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor, council members, if I could just add, this is a little different than a lot of our programs where we're seeking grant funds and really are kind of cold in terms of the relationship. Yeah. The tennis staff has developed a pretty strong relationship, ongoing relationship with the USTA and the Maureen Connolly Brinker Tennis Foundation. And we received funding from the foundation on multiple occasions, I believe, in the past.
That's fantastic. That answers my question. Thank you.
Other comments from the bench? See none. Comments from the public? See none. Discussion will come. Oh, we got. Apologies. Sometimes we go a little too fast. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
My name's Beck. Can we leave that back up? That picture? Because it's just so beautiful and it makes me very excited. My name is Becky Samaniego. I am an attorney here in town and a lifelong Wichitan, but I'm here today as the USTA Kansas Executive Director. I'm new to that position, but for the last year I have, thank you, that's so pretty. I have served as the Kansas District Adult League Coordinator, and what that means is that I helped coordinate leagues for adults to play tennis throughout the state of Kansas, except for the Heart America area. I also, as just a Wichitan, I have grown up here and I have played at Riverside since I was a small kid. I've played at every facility here in Wichita, including all the private clubs and including all of the parks. I played college in tennis. I have played high-level USTA matches as a junior and as an adult. I've traveled to Oklahoma City. I've traveled to Omaha. I've traveled to the Plaza up in Kansas City. So I know what we're trying to do here and what we are compared to in our region. USTA Kansas, we host tournaments for juniors. We host tournaments for adults. We cannot, in the city of Wichita, host these tournaments because we do not have this facility yet. We don't have enough outdoor courts. We don't have enough indoor courts at the same facility in order to bring in hundreds of players and families, juniors, parents, adults, and their kids to play on a weekend or two here in the city of Wichita. Right now, those tournaments are going to Topeka. This year, we've got at least 2 tournaments of adults, and we've got multiple tournaments for juniors, all being held at Crossover. And we are losing out on that revenue here in the city of Wichita. So when I started speaking with Sarah and her staff and with the city, and I heard about this project, my energy just was rejuvenated because this makes me excited as a Wichitan, but it makes me excited as a member of USTA and as an executive director. My kid plays at Riverside. This is going to be awesome, and I am here to fully support the grant or the funds that are being set aside by the city. I am also involved with the city as well as with Mo Conley, the UC or MCB, and USTA also does provide grants. And so I know Sarah is in the process of communicating with USTA but this has to be approved first. And so there is funds out there to help with this, but also to grow it in the next phase, which I don't even think you are aware of what is in our brains as far as what we can do here. So I'm very excited about this, and I hope that you all pass this request.
So in your experience, how this looks now would actually bring us to a level in which we could take competitions from Topeka or from other areas in the region?
We can't even put in a bid at this point to host sectionals here in Wichita because we have to have 12 outdoor courts. And now you have 13. The 3 there on the right are right now covered by a bubble, and so they're technically not outdoor courts, but you still have 13 available with this picture. And so we can do it now with this proposal. We would be able to bid to host those sectionals. We can't do it now.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you for being here.
Sure.
If the council were to pass this, would you agree to a doubles match versus the mayor and Councilmember Fry?
Absolutely.
She's on my team.
Absolutely, and you too.
I think I might be better at pickleball, actually, to be honest. Unless I'm going to take a prerogative to ask another question. Have you played in Tulsa, and if so, are these going to be better than Tulsa's? Because that's a big concern.
I have not played in Tulsa. I have been to Tulsa, but there are some people here who might have played in Tulsa and could answer that question.
Well, this will at least get us closer.
Definitely.
Excellent. Others, people from the bench? No one's on my list. Comments from, thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments from the public? Go slow this time, make sure I don't rush anyone. See none, discussion back to the bench. I believe this is in the district of the Vice Mayor. Mayor recognizes Vice Mayor Claycomb.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for bringing this forward. It sounds like this, for the tennis community, will be a great addition, and thank you for coming and visiting with us today. And with that, I'd like to approve the budget and preparation of grant applications if necessary and adopt the resolution.
There's been a motion. The chair will second. Clerk will open the roll and members will cast their votes. The result is 7 yeas to 0 nays, in which the motion passes unanimously. Clerk will read.
2020 Cheney Ozone Generation Power Supply Renovation.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. For the record, I'm Don Henry, representing Public Works and Utilities this morning. This morning, the item before you involves the rehabilitation of power control units and those controls for the Cheney ozone system. In 2004, the city constructed an ozone plant at Cheney Reservoir to take care of taste and odor issues that were occurring with some frequency. This is relative to growth of algae and the life cycle of the algae in the water at Cheney and releases compounds into the water, and ozone is a very effective means of taking care of those constituents. And so the ozone plant includes 2 separate ozone generators, and there are power units that serve each of those with controls. The picture in front of you here shows one of the cabinets that contains the power unit for one of the ozone generators, and today's item would take care of both units. This is planned work, renewal and replacement of critical assets based upon the life cycle. This was installed in 2005. We're 15 years down the road, and according to the manufacturer specs, it's time to address those now. We want to get out in front of that, knowing that the next growth season is coming up upon us. We'd like to finish that work up before the summer, and so it's time to move forward with that. And it's also important to note that the proprietary nature of the equipment requires sole source purchase of the components and parts for these. The adopted CIP includes $2.5 million to fund the full replacement of each unit. However, staff believes that the appropriate path forward here is to renovate each of the units. We believe that Appreciable savings can be gained by that approach. Therefore, staff is asking for $1.2 million to carry that work out. That would include approximately $200,000 for the engineering work. That would include a full detailed assessment of each unit. It would include the design of the ultimate solution, production of bid documents, technical support, and construction oversight. And then that would provide $1 million in funds to procure the necessary parts and components and the labor to do the installation. And at this time, I'd like to go ahead and make staff's recommendation that City Council approve the budget, authorize sole source equipment procurement, adopt the resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. I appreciate your consideration on this item, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Questions? See none, thank you. Open up to public comment. See none, discussion will come back to the bench, in which there are no speakers who are on my list. See none, therefore we will be appropriate to make a motion. I'm not sure whose district this falls in, so I'll just make the motion to approve the budget, authorize sole source procurement for the equipment, adopt the resolution, authorize all necessary signatures per charter ordinance number 211. This item requires a 2/3 majority vote. In parentheses, they tell us that's 5 votes. Motion has been made. It's proper to make a second.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. The clerk will open a roll and members will cast their votes. With the 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does receive the 2/3 requirement to move forward. Clerk will read.
Supplemental Design Agreement Number 4 and Railroad Agreements for 17th Street North, I-135 to Broadway.
Mayor and council members, again, Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The item before you this morning is probably sounds familiar on a project we've discussed with you numerous times. The project is now bid and is ready for construction to begin soon. On a project this size, we have a few loose items that need to be tied up, kind of working at the mercy of others. So in November of 2019, the City Council approved crossing agreements with the BNSF and Union Pacific Railways. Today's item is to approve the final agreements with those two companies. As well, prior to that, City Council had approved final aesthetic design for improvements specifically at McAdams Park, and as part of the item today is a supplemental design agreement with MKC Engineering to wrap up that design work. The roadway improvements require these agreements as typical in these types of projects. And as I mentioned, that design would be for the aesthetic improvements at the plaza area. The total cost of all agreements and permits is just under $1.3 million, the cost of which is included in the existing budget. With that, I would ask the council to approve the agreements and authorize the necessary signatures, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Vice Mayor Claycomb.
I have a question. Thank you, Gary. I have just a question. So this is for the BNSF and UP, but in our agenda report, it also has the cost for the WTA agreement.
And I don't think we have those quite finalized yet, so we may be coming back one more time depending on what the cost is.
Even though those are in the, so there, if you add up all those numbers, they add up into that budget, or into that request, the 1.2.
With the
almost
WTA
1.3.
also? Okay,
So,
well, and then I apologize for missing that one.
That's okay.
We
I just
have
wanna make
multiple
sure.
railroads here and almost a half a dozen crossings, so.
Okay, so it's all of those.
It is,
in
all of
here.
the
Okay.
above, yes.
Thank you.
Further questions from the bench? See none, thank you. Public comment? See none, discussion comes back to the bench. It appears that this is in the Vice Mayor Claycomb's district, and the chair will give her the floor for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that we approve the agreements and authorize the necessary signatures.
Seconded. Motion's been made and second. Clerk will open the roll, members cast their votes. With 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion passes unanimously.
Cancellation of March 10th, 2020 City Council meeting.
Cancellation of the March 10th City Council meeting for Full disclosure, members of the council will be traveling to Washington, D.C., and that is the reasoning for that. Is there any questions or comments? Any questions from the public? See none, I will make a motion that we will cancel March 10th, 2020 City Council meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Members will cast their votes. With 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Clerk will read.
Councilmember appointments and comments.
All right, well, do members have appointments to the board that they would like to make at this time, to boards?
I don't have any appointments. Mine is a comment. I can go later.
Excellent. Councilmember Bluebog.
Mine was an announcement as well.
So these are announcements, okay.
No, I have an appointment.
Councilmember Fry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a resignation on my district from the Wichita Employee Retirement Board. Troy Arment, I want to thank him for his service and his dedication of time to the city, and would like to then reappoint Stephen Coberly to the Wichita Employee Retirement Board. Stephen is a former city employee and came with good recommendation from staff, so I'm very confident that he'll do a great job for us.
And I rise to department inquiry. Those appointments don't require a vote, or do they require a vote in council?
They do require a vote.
Appointment has been made. Thus, the motion has been made. I will second. Any discussion? See none. Clerk will open the roll, and we will. Members will vote.
Madam Clerk, mine is just spinning, so I'm gonna vote yay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass and the appointment is confirmed. Moving onward to appointments, the chair would like to appoint Councilmember Brandon Johnson to the Single-Use Bag Committee Task Force as the chairperson, along with members of the Wichita community, Levanta Williams, Lori Lawrence, Sheila Laurie, Brett Prather, Angela Baskew, Chris Becker, Jeff Duzier, Kathy Vines, Jane Burns, Marty Spence, and also Councilmember Becky Tuttle. And I want to apologize. I do not mess up names on purpose, so if I did mess up someone's name, then I do apologize ahead of time. With that, it'd be proper to make a motion to accept, and thus I'll make that motion.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk will open roll. We shall take our votes.
Madam Clerk, I still can't vote, but I voted yes.
With 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass, and those members in that board is appointed. I would also like to appoint Alex Dean to be appointed to the Sedgwick County Solid Waste Management Committee.
Second.
It's been a motion and seconded. Madam Clerk, if you would open up the votes.
Madam Clerk, yes.
All members had an opportunity to vote. The 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Adam Dean is appointed. And I think that's, are there any more appointments to boards? If not, we're going to get into comments. So the list for comments, the chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for the appointment on the Plastic Bag Committee.
You got it.
I just wanted to give a shout out. Alan left, but I'll tell Bob, Joe and Don came out from Public Works last night to our District Advisory Board meeting. It was a great presentation about 2 of the major flooding issues we have in District 1 on Bleckley and Northeast Heights, and they were able to break it down in a way that was digestible to those in attendance. And Mr. Roseborough said thank you. So if he says thank you, it was a great job. I just wanted to give them a public shout out for the great work they did last night.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you, and thank you for the appointment. I just wanted to take a moment to send our thoughts and prayers to one of our fellow elected officials across the street at the county. Commissioner Michael O'Donnell lost his father this weekend, and I just hope that everybody will keep him and his family in thoughts and prayers during this very challenging time.
Other comments? See none, I'll make a quick comment that moving forward, if there are other members of the community who are deserving of recognition for their commitment to giving back to our community, such as the Citizenship Award that's given out in the beginning of this meeting, please reach out to a council member or to myself, either by phone or email. Our goal is to show off the great work that's going on in our community, and we could do that going forward. So please, if there's someone who you think deserves an award, please let us know. We'd be happy to get that on the calendar. With that, we are not adjourning. We'll go into recess. I move that the City Council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to receive information on a matter involving a proposed ordinance pursuant to KSA 75-4319, parentheses B, parentheses 2. For the legal consultation, with the city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship in regards to potential litigation and legal advice. An executive session is required to protect attorney-client privilege and the public interest. Is there any discussion on that? See none. The motion has been made. 20 minutes is the time limit, I believe.
Second. Was there a second?
There is a second by the Vice Mayor. There's been a motion and a second. The clerk will open the rolls. Members will cast their vote.
Madam Clerk, yes.
With that, the 7 yeas to 0 nays, we will go to executive session for 20 minutes in recess. Thank you.